The campaigns in Inner Mongolia from 1933 to 1936 were part of the ongoing invasion of northern China by the Empire of Japan prior to the official start of hostilities in the Second Sino-Japanese War. In 1931, the invasion of Manchuria secured the creation of the puppet state of Manchukuo, and in 1933, Operation Nekka detached the province of Johor from the Republic of China. Blocked from further advance south by the Tangu Truce, the Imperial Japanese Army turned its attention west, towards the inner Mongolian provinces of Shahar and Sui Yuan, with the goal of establishing a northern China buffer state. In order to avoid overt violation of the truce, the Japanese government used proxy armies in these campaigns, while Chinese resistance was at first only provided by anti-Japanese resistance movement forces in Shahar. Chinese government forces were overtly hostile to the anti-Japanese resistance and resisted Japanese aggression only in Sui Yuan in 1936. Background: in February 1933, following the successful Japanese invasion of Johor, the Kwantung Army left a small Japanese detachment and the much larger Manchukuo Imperial Army to watch the eastern Johor border, while the balance of the Japanese forces moved south to engage the Chinese on the Great Wall. In April 1933, collaborationist General Lu Gatang, under Japanese orders, crossed into southeastern Shahar province in the Dolonor region, as a diversionary feint to draw off Chinese reinforcements to the Great Wall. Finding little resistance, Lu then led his 3,000 troops further east toward Changpai. Although reported at the time as a Japanese operation, Lu's further advance may have been carried out without Japan's explicit approval. The Kuomintang Military Committee in Peking appointed General Fu Zhaoyi as commander of Chinese 7th Army Group, and tasked him with providing Johor border security. At the end of April, when the advance in Japanese forces approached Miyun, he anxiously redeployed Fu Zhaoyi's troops to strengthen the Peking's defenses eastwards to Changping, leaving the defense of the Shahar border empty. The Japanese and Manchukuo armies seized the opportunity on May 11, and quickly following up on Lu Gatang's advance, seized the Dolonor region, and subsequently took Gaiwan, just prior to the signing of the Tangu Truce of May 31, 1933. The Shahar People's Anti-Japanese Army. The terms of the Tangu Truce enraged public opinion, particularly in urban China. Groups of Chinese patriots opposed to Chiang Kai-shek's policies, both within the Kuomintang and the Chinese Communist Party, as well as overseas Chinese, cooperated in organizing and supporting an irregular force, or anti-Japanese allied army to resist further Japanese encroachment. General Feng Yuzhang and his former subordinate Ji Hongchang were able to recruit many units of former Guominjun soldiers. Fang Zhenwu raised volunteers from the rest of China. Added to this were the local militias driven out of Johor by the Japanese and Manchurian anti-Japanese guerrilla forces under Feng Jianhai, the local Shahar militia, and a Mongol army under Diem Chugdong Rub. Even the Japanese collaborator Lu Gatang switched sides, joining the anti-Japanese allied army, as did the Sui Yuan bandit leader Wang Ying. After a meeting of the various commanding officers, on May 26, 1933, the Shahar People's Anti-Japanese Army was formally proclaimed, with General Feng Yuzhang was made Commander-in-Chief. Fang Zhenwu became Vice Commander-in-Chief and Ji Hongchang the frontline commander. The army was estimated in strength to be between 60,000 to 120,000 men by various sources, with the figure of 100,000 men claimed by Feng Yuzhang. Despite its numbers, most of the volunteers in the army lacked guns or other modern weapons. Order of Battle Anti-Japanese Allied Army Campaign of 1933 Campaign of the Anti-Japanese Allied Army. By the time the Anti-Japanese Allied Army had been established, the Kwantung Army strengthened its defenses at Dolonor. The city was garrisoned by over 2,000 men of the Japanese 4th Cavalry Brigade and an artillery unit. Outside the city, the Japanese erected 32 blockhouses connected with trenches, a wire communications network, and multiple lines of obstacles. These outer defenses were guarded by Manchukuo troops under the command of Li Shohsin. To the south, the Japanese 8th Regiment was stationed in Fenning for mutual support with the forces in Doliner. The anti-Japanese Allied Army found its situation worsening day by day. On June 1, Japanese airplanes bombed Dushiko. On June 4, Baochang fell to the Japanese, as did Kangbao on June 5. On June 21, Feng Yuzhang ordered the anti-Japanese Allied Army to launch a counter-offensive in 3 columns to regain the lost territory. On June 22, its vanguard approached Kangbao, and after several hours of fighting, the Manchukuo force under General Sui Xingwu fled, allowing the Chinese forces to reoccupy the town. In late June, a force under Ji Hongchang pushed northeast against Doliner with 2 corps. The Northern Corps recaptured Baochang from the now demoralized Manchukuo force under Sui Xingwu. The Southern Corps under Fang Zhenwu advanced on Gaiwan, held by the collaborationist General Lu Gatang. Lu was persuaded to change sides, and surrendered Gaiwan and other places on the Bashang Plateau without battle. On July 8, before dawn, Ji Hongchang began an assault on Doliner, capturing the 2 outer defense lines outside the city before being driven back with heavy casualties. Later, some of Ji's soldiers were sent in disguise into the city as covert operatives to gather intelligence for a second attack. This second attack recaptured Doliner on July 12, effectively driving the Japanese Manchukuo armies out of Shahar province. In late July, Feng Yuzhang and Ji Hongchang established the Committee for Recovering the 4 Provinces of the Northeast at Kalgan, directly threatening Japan's hold on the recently established puppet state of Manchukuo. The end of the anti-Japanese Allied Army. Chiang Kai-shek believed that communists dominated the anti-Japanese Allied Army, and felt that it was a threat to his authority. When the anti-Japanese Allied Army was proclaimed, the Kuomintang Military Committee in Peking issued an order to cut off passenger train service to Kalgan. Later they sent an armored train close to Kalgan, and directed Jan Zishan to station troops on the Shanxi border with Shahar, including the 42nd Division under Feng Qinzai, Chinese 35th Army under Fu Zhaoya and Chinese 3rd Army under Pang Bingzun. In July, the Chinese 17th Army under Zhu Tingliao and 87th Division under Wang Jingzhu relieved the forces of Sun Dianying and took control of the Peking-Sui-Yuan rail line, preventing outside supply and reinforcement to the anti-Japanese Allied Army. Chiang Kai-shek also used the anti-Japanese army's internal disunity against it, sending spies in to gather intelligence, create rumors, sow dissension, and buy or win over some of the leaders. Generals Gang Bao, Feng Jianhai, Li Zhongyi, Tan Zixin eventually defected to Chiang. Deng Wen was assassinated. Japan seized the opportunity provided by this disunity to invade Shahar again in August. On August 8, the Japanese bombed Gaiwan and again attacked Gaiwan and Doliner. Ji Hongchang temporarily stopped the Japanese forces, but the effects of Chiang's blockade meant that food, clothing, ammunition and money were all in short supply. Feng Yuzhang was not able to bring these in from outside Shahar, and the province itself lacked the resources to support the army. Feng Yuzhang sent a telegram on August 5, announcing that he was going to officially disband the anti-Japanese Allied Army and asked the national government to let Song Zheyuan return to oversee the process. Many officers and men in the anti-Japanese Allied Army, now unpaid, suffering starvation, disease and lacking the means to fight, were now easily persuaded to join the Chinese army or submit to being disbanded. Feng Yuzhang resigned his post on August 18, and left Shahar. Doliner was recaptured by the Japanese immediately afterwards. Song Jiayuan made Ruin Shanwu Shandu garrison commander, overseeing 2 regiments, and Fuchun commander of another regiment under Ruin's command. Zhang Linguan became Baochang garrison commander. Mi Yuling was his deputy, commanding 2 regiments. Huang Shouzhong oversaw the 2 battalions of the provincial guerrilla detachment. Sun Liangcheng, Lu Zhendong and guerrilla leader Tang Juwu were each given command of regiments. Zhang Lisheng accepted the post of provincial government consultant in return for disbanding the Shahar self-defense army. Tan Zixan, Zhang Renji, Li Zhongyi were put under the command of the Peking Branch Military Committee. The units of Liao Jingchuan, Song Kebin, and others were reduced and reorganized, with the anti-Japanese Allied army under Fang Zhenwu and Ji Hongchang considerably reduced by Song's activities. Fang Zhenwu, as the new commander-in-chief, ordered the army east to Dushikou. Some of the subordinates of Ji Hongchang attempted to move west to Ningxia via Suiyuan. However, Fu Zhaoya and Zhang Linguan pursued and blocked them east of Ertizi, forcing them east to join Fang Zhenwu at Dushikou. On September 10, Ji Hongchang went to Yunzhou to meet with Fang Zhenwu, Tang Yulan, and Lu Gatang in a military conference. Together they decided to reorganize their troops and changed their name to the Resist Japan Thief Punitive Expeditionary Army. Fang Zhenwu was to be commander-in-chief, Tang Yulan deputy commander-in-chief, Lu Gatang right route commander, Ji Hongchang left route commander. Surrounded by nationalist forces to the south and Japanese to the north, the decision was taken to leave from Dushikou and advance southward toward Peking. After the meeting, Ji's left route troops pushed southward via Bohe River toward Wairu east of the Great Wall, and the right route troops under Fang Zhenwu moved west of the Great Wall along the Bai River to the southeast. Both forces crossed the Great Wall on September 20 and on September 21. Ji attacked Wairu and Fang Zhenwu attacked and occupied Miyun in the same day. Meanwhile, Lu Gatang, after talks with Song Che-yuan, defected back to the Japanese side again. Lu was given the title of Bandit Suppression Commander of Eastern Shahar, commanding 3 regiments stationed at Xicheng, Dushikou and Yunzhou. Lu's force blocked Tang's troops from following the rest of the anti-Japanese Allied army south, leaving Fang Zhenwu and Ji Hongchang to continue alone. On September 25, Fang Zhenwu attacked and occupied Jialing. A Japanese reconnaissance aircraft dropped a warning to withdraw from the Tangu Treaty demilitarized zone the following day, and when he failed to do so on September 27, Japanese aircraft bombed his position. Feng and Ji decided to continue the advance with their remaining 6,000 men, divided in 3 groups. At the beginning of October, Ji's forces encountered the forces of Shang Zhen, Guan Lingzheng and Pang Bingzhen at Changping, blocking their further advance. In a few days they had surrounded the anti-Japanese Allied army, although short of food and ammunition. After several days of heavy fighting, Fang and Ji's forces were able to break out to the east at Xiaotangshan, but with heavy losses, and were again trapped. The remaining 4,500 men were forced to capitulate. Ji was able to slip away during the confusion, going to Tianjin to continue to carry on his opposition to Japan. Fang Zhenwu was forced into exile in Hong Kong, Demchug Dongrub and the Inner Mongolian Autonomous Government. During September 1933, the Mongolian princes of Shahar and Suiyuan provinces traveled to Batho Halik, north of Kaiwa, and gathered in a council with Prince Demchug Dongrub, who for months had been trying to found a pan-Mongolian self-rule movement. In mid-October, despite their traditional suspicions of one another, the princes agreed to draw up a confederation of Inner Mongolian states. They sent word to Nanking that unless Inner Mongolian autonomy was formally acknowledged, assistance would be sought from Japan. In response, Chiang Kai-shek permitted the establishment of the Mongol Local Autonomy Political Affairs Committee. but in its attempts to assert its authority it would engage in two serious clashes with Sui Yuan provincial forces over the next year. General Jiro Minami, commander of the Kwangtung Army, and Colonel Seishiro Itagaki gave support to the Inner Mongolian autonomous government. However, when General Minami sent Major Yukichi Tanaka and another officer to interview Prince Demchug Dongrub in April 1935, an agreement could not be reached at that time. In June 1935, the North Shahar incident and the resulting Chin-Do-Ihara agreement substantially affected events. The agreement forced all units of the Chinese 29th Army to be withdrawn from north of Changpai, which amounted to near total evacuation of Chinese forces from Shahar province. Public order was to be entrusted to a Peace Preservation Corps, a police organization armed with only light weapons. No Chinese settlers were to be permitted to relocate to northern part of Shahar, and the activities of the Kuomintang were banned, as were all other anti-Japanese institutions. In August 1935, General Minami met with Prince Demchug Dongrub, where the prince promised close cooperation with Japan, and Minami promised financial assistance. On December 24, 1935, General Minami sent 2 battalions of irregular Manchurian cavalry under Li Shohsin, a squadron of Japanese planes, and a few tanks to assist Prince Demchug Dongrub in occupying the northern part of Shahar province. The 6 xians of northern Shahar were defended by only a few thousand men of the Peace Preservation Corps. With Li's assistance, the Inner Mongolian forces soon overran the area. Sui Yuan Campaign 1936–1937. Japanese preparations. For some time before the capture of northern Shahar, Japanese secret agents had been operating in Sui Yuan, setting up radio stations with operators disguised as Buddhist priests. Following the promotion of General Seishiro Itagaki to Chief of Staff of the Kwangtung Army, plans for the establishment of the invasion of Sui Yuan went forward. Representatives from Inner Mongolia, Qinghai and Outer Mongolia also attended the meeting, which was called the State Founding Conference. A plan was made to create a new Mongolian empire, which would encompass all of Inner and Outer Mongolia and Qinghai province. As a result of this conference, the Mongol military government was formed on May 12, 1936. A mutual assistance agreement with Manchukuo was concluded in July 1936, and Japan agreed to provide both military and economic aid. Prince Demchug Dongrub set out to enlarge and equip his army, increasing from 3 cavalry divisions to 9 divisions with the aid of his Japanese advisors. The Japanese provided arms captured from the northeastern army, but Tanaka ignored the advice of the Mongolian leaders and also recruited poorly armed levies and ex-bandits from various regions. Having no unity, poor training and poorly armed, this irregular force of around 10,000 men had poor morale and cohesion and proved to be a liability rather than an asset. Additionally, a collaborationist Chinese army of questionable loyalty, the Grand Han Righteous Army under Wang Ying, was attached to the new Inner Mongolian Army. The Japanese also created a Mengjiang Air Force with 28 combat aircraft, with Japanese air and ground crews based in Changpai, to assist the army in close air support. The Japanese also provided artillery pieces and armored cars, also crewed by Japanese. The South Manchurian Railway Company sent 150 trucks to form a transportation regiment, and Manchukuo government sent communications equipment. Chinese response. General Fu Zhaoyi prepared for the expected Japanese Inner Mongolian assault by seeking reinforcements for his provincial forces from the governor of Shanxi province Yan Zishan, as well as Chiang Kai-shek, who had moved his Central Army forces into Shaanxi province to attack People's Liberation Army units arriving there after the Long March. On August 9, Jian sent the Chinese 19th Army under Wang Jingguo, consisting of the 68th Division, 7th and 8th Independent Brigades and 4 artillery regiments, and on September 18, the Central Army sent 1 anti-aircraft artillery battalion. On October 14, Chiang Kai-shek sent a telegram to Yan Xishan, advising that he was sending Tang Enbo and the Chinese 13th Army and Menbing's 7th Cavalry Division to reinforce Sui Yuan. On October 30, Yan Xishan and Fu Zhaoya met with Chiang Kai-shek to assess the military situation and determine troop dispositions. On November 11, Yan Xishan divided his forces into 3 route armies, a cavalry army and a reserve army, with troop dispositions to be completed as soon as Tang Enbo's forces arrived. However, the Japanese struck first on November 15, 1936. Order of battle: Sui Yuan Campaign. Sui Yuan Campaign. The invasion of Sui Yuan began on November 14, 1936, when a coalition of the Inner Mongolian Army's 7th and 8th Cavalry Divisions, Wang Ying's Grand Han Righteous Army, and Mongol mercenaries from Jahol, Shahar and other areas, supported by 30 Japanese advisors, attacked the Chinese garrison at Hongort. After several days of fighting, the attackers failed to capture the town. On November 17, the Chinese counterattack surprised the invaders and led to a disorganized retreat. Taking advantage of the Mongolian disorder, General Fu Tsoyi made a flanking movement to the west of the Mongolian headquarters at Pari-Lingmiawan, attacked, capturing it and routing the Mongolian forces. Wang and his Grand Han Righteous Army were trucked into a location near Pari-Lingmiao and launched a counterattack, which failed dismally on December 19, with most of the attackers either taken prisoner or annihilated. Aftermath: the defeat of Japan's proxy forces encouraged many Chinese into pushing for a more active resistance against the Japanese. The Xian incident, which occurred immediately after the successful outcome of this campaign, was possibly triggered by this event. Small-scale combat continued in Sui Yuan until the beginning of open hostilities following the Marco Polo Bridge incident the following year. Following his defeat in Sui Yuan, Prince Demchug Dongrub was forced to rebuild his army. With Japanese help, by the time war broke out in July 1937, his army consisted of 20,000 men in 8 cavalry divisions. These forces participated in Operation Shahar and the Battle of Taiyuan, during which Japanese regular and allied Inner Mongol forces finally captured eastern Sui Yuan province. Ultimately, after the end of the Second Sino-Japanese War, China fell into civil war between the Chiang Kai-shek's Kuomintang and Mao Zedong's communist forces. With the victory of communists, Inner Mongolia returned to centralized Chinese rule and many collaborators were punished.